Fear is what drives us. It ends up putting us in a situation where we're choosing options for us based out of fear instead of based out of power. You're making a decision that is coming from a place where you may not even have all the information that you need in order to make that decision. For example, induction is a big one. Oftentimes I'm seeing what is being said inside the mom groups is, well, it's better to induce at 39 weeks because you can avoid a C-section. Not exactly true, but the fear of wanting to avoid that C-section may push you into an induction that you don't want, specifically because you think that if you don't induce at 39 weeks, that you will more likely have a C-section. The truth is a little bit more insidious than that. The easiest way to control somebody is through fear. And the maternity care system operates on the basis that you are afraid. The entire maternity system only exists because you are afraid. And if you were no longer afraid, that whole system cannot function the way it is. So currently, what am I talking about when I say that the system is functioning a certain way? Well, the way that we have maternity care is it's very one size fits all, which means that you go into the appointments and they go a certain way and you're told by your care provider, now you need to take this test, now you need to go and do this procedure, now we're going to do a vaginal exam, now we're going to do a pap smear. And at some point during that, when you start to feel uncomfortable or you say, I don't want vaginal exams, they will then tell you, well, if you can't handle vaginal exams, you can't have a natural birth. You won't be able to handle the pain. Well, first of all, that's undermining your confidence. And second of all, it's a bunch of crap because you can actually have a natural birth without a single vaginal exam. Or if they say, well, if you can't stand to do these tests, then you're not doing what's best for your baby and you're not going to be a good mother. That's again putting fear on you based on the fact that what their ultimate goal is to get you to comply. So all of this fear is not in your best interest. It's more because they have their own agenda when it comes to your birth. Your care provider has been indoctrinated into the system. They may be a pretty good person. They may not actually have bad intentions when it comes to pushing you into these interventions. Maybe they've seen things in the hospital system. It's quite common that birth goes wrong in a hospital system because it's so heavily interfered with. If you want to know more about that, you can read Reclaiming Childbirth as a Rite of Passage, because this book by Rachel Reed actually goes into the details of how a physiological birth works. I myself have also studied physiological birth. I prepared extensively before I had my daughter, because after what had happened with my son, when I chose out of fear instead of from a place of power, I decided that's it. I am not going to let the system control me ever again. I am not going to let them scare me out of what I want. I want a home birth and I'm going to get one, and I'm not going to let anything stop me. And so when this happened, I had to relearn my education. So how did I do that? Okay, so I have 5 pillars of empowerment. And the 5 pillars of empowerment are as follows. You need to have the right mindset. You need to have the right education. You need to have the right environment. You need to have the right facilitators, and you need to have the right support. If you don't have those things, if you don't have the right support, first of all, people are going to continue to undermine your confidence. They're going to continue to put their fears on you if you don't have the right support. If you don't have the right facilitators, again, those care providers are going to continue to try to control you through fear because they are afraid. They don't trust you to be the decision maker in your care. If you don't have the right environment, again, that's not facilitating what you need to feel safe. So if you're not learning in the right environment, if you're not birthing in the right environment, then what happens is that things can't come to pass. You cannot birth in an environment where you feel unsafe, because your body is going to tell you, there's a tiger chasing us right now. It's really not a good idea for us to be going into labor. and then your labor will stall. And then because you're in the environment where they control things, the system will then start to decide how your birth needs to progress. And they will start giving you Pitocin, or they will push you into a C-section. This is what happens when you are not in the right environment. Now, in order to get that, you need to have the right education. Because if you don't understand how your body actually works, and you don't understand how your mind works, and you don't understand all of the nuances that are involved in birth and in our biological processes, and you don't understand how the system works, and you don't understand the historical context, and you don't understand how to get the thing you want, it's not going to work too well. Because the second something comes up where they're like, well, why are you refusing that? And you say, well, I don't know. I was just told that this is something I need to refuse. Now they can go and put their fears on you and tell you why they think you should do the thing that you don't actually want. This is also called coercion, and it's not okay. And it happens a lot in maternity care because of the fact that we are in a culture of fear. So the next one, this is the big key component, and this is where the get out of your birth fear in 5 days challenge really comes into play. And that is the right mindset. A friend of mine has said that 90% of the game is played above the shoulders. And when he said that, I understood it so fully because I had already had my empowered birth with my daughter. And I'm like, you're right. Because once I got that mindset under control, I was able to get out of my fear. And I was then able to push forward and go into that unknown space to get the thing that I really wanted. Now, if I had stuck with that fear, I may have just ended up giving in to what the midwife wanted me to do, which was transfer to the hospital because I was not progressing at the rate that I was supposed to as a second-time mom. And this is the same thing that keeps a lot of us stuck, especially if we don't have the right doula or the right midwife, and if we're at home and we think, I need to transfer, I can't handle this anymore. Well, if you don't have that mindset figured out that this is just, I'm done this contraction and now I can move forward, or I'm scared and I can move forward, and you understand that and you've worked through those issues before so that when they come up, it's very quick and instant and it doesn't keep you stuck. When you don't have that right mindset, it all falls apart. You can't get the right education without the right mindset. You can't get the right environment without the right mindset. You can't get the right facilitators, your care providers, your doulas, your midwives. You can't get them if you don't have your right mindset, because now you're still looking at them as the experts who know more than you rather than somebody you've hired to support you. You can't get the right support if you don't have your mindset, because if you are being told by your friends and family over and over that birth is scary, birth is traumatic, that you need to lower your expectations, and you keep getting that and you have nowhere else to go for that support for what you really need, then eventually that starts to erode your confidence, and then you start to doubt yourself. So you need to have your right mindset, and you need all 5 of these pillars in order for you to have an empowered birth. And this is true for everything. This is why I call them the 5 pillars of empowerment, because you need these 5 pillars of support for everything that you try to do, whether it's trying to build a business, trying to get out of a relationship that's not serving you, parenting your children. Everything comes back down to these 5 pillars. They are that important. And once I discovered this, once I realized that these were the 5 things that make or break your birth, then I realized that I needed to tell everybody about this. And this is when I took this out into the world as a birth advocate and started teaching it to my clients and the women who came to me for help in a volunteer sense. And I noticed that once they had those things, they were able to go on and have those empowered births. I promise that over the next 5 days, you're going to get out of your birth fear. This is a bold promise. And I know that a lot of people will say, oh, well, you can't really get over childbirth fear. It's just birth is scary. Birth is unpredictable. You need to throw your birth plan out the window. No, I am actually going to help you get out of your birth fear, just as I have helped my clients get past theirs. And just as I've helped women beforehand when I was a birth advocate get out of their fear and plan empowered births. So I've been doing this for quite a while. And I'm going to tell you the same framework that I ended up using in order to get myself out of my birth fear and be able to go on to have 2 natural births, one in the hospital, which I had a little bit of fear come up, and I was thinking to myself, you know, I just have to do this to be safe, even though I don't want to. I'll tell you a little bit more about that story on day 3 when I talk about how staying in your fear can get you stuck. But I went on to then have a home birth with my daughter, and she is my empowered birth baby. She is the reason why I do this work now. Because once I had that physiological birth, and once I learned how to release my fears and be able to plan my birth from a place of power instead of a place of fear, that's when things started to change for me. Not only in birth and parenting, but in all aspects of my life. Because on the other side of fear is the thing you want. So if you're staying scared of childbirth, the thing on the other side, of course, is you want to have an empowered birth. If you're already pregnant, this is so true for you. You can continue to stay stuck in your fear, or you can release those fears so when they come up, they can't stop you. You might just look at it like, oh yeah, there's that thing that I'm afraid of again, and I'm going to go do this thing anyway. All right, I will see you soon. Bye.